Hello and welcome back to the Cinch YouTube channel, where today we are getting a very early glimpse of the new Volkswagen Tiguan. This is a car on a new platform with lots of new tech and a new design, so I think we should take a very close look.
So, the next generation Tiguan will reignite Volkswagen's battle with rivals like the BMW X1 and Audi Q3, as well as other mid-sized SUVs like the Nissan Qashqai and Kia Sportage. Prices aren't yet confirmed, but expect them to start in the low 30,000s of pounds, edging towards and possibly over 40k for higher grade versions like the Elegance you see here.
Now, the big change for this car is what's underneath. It's the MQB Evo platform, which enables the Tiguan not only to inherit quite a few engines that have electrification, it means it's got everything up to a plug-in hybrid model, which we'll talk about in just a second, but it also means it can get tech all over the car, inside, but also outside. We've got a whole new lighting design up front here, as you'll see. It's the complicated matrix stuff, which has automatic dipping. It just means you're going to have a really crisp beam. It's going to be great at night. I can't wait to check it out. But it also means you've got a lot of active features on the front of the car. Now, there are, of course, openings and grills, but they can close off. And that enables this thing to be much slipperier through the air. It actually has a drag coefficient of 0.295, which is pretty slippery for a car of this shape. Of course, it's an SUV, so it's going to be quite big through the air. And yet, when these grills close off and when the active cooling even to the brakes close off, well, that means it's much slipperier and actually helps it to get an amazingly impressive plug-in hybrid range. Before we get to that though, let's talk about the car's design. Now, I think we can all agree that it looks different, but it also evolves what was kind of liked by a lot of Tiguan buyers. And I can see on this car, we've got 20-inch alloy wheels, which is the biggest you can get on the Tiguan. But yet there's still quite a chunky tyre here, which is nice to see. It bodes well for the ride. But let's keep on with the design. Come around to the rear here, and you'll see that just like the front, we've got new lights at the rear, but they're kind of recognizable. This segment here in particular, this has a light bar which runs across here, but you can see Tiguan, the old one, in the rear design here, which is going to probably please quite a lot of buyers. I think the Tiguan was always one of the best looking cars in the class. And now they've kept it nice and tidy, nice and clean. But now with this new light design, it just looks very 2024, actually. I was going to say 23. And also the car is basically the same size from the outside. It's a few millimeters bigger here and there, a little bit longer at the rear, but actually a lot of that is to do with the aero. And this spoiler, which overhangs here, helps with that drag coefficient I mentioned. And it also gives the car a bit of a sportier look.
As for engines, turbocharged petrol and diesel power plants will kick off the range, as with the old car, with a 48-volt mild hybrid and a full plug-in hybrid also available, with the latter offering a very impressive 62 miles of claimed pure electric range. The car will use a 6-speed DSG Auto gearbox for all models and come with front drive, unless you tick the 4Motion all-wheel drive option box, while adjustable DCC suspension comes as standard, which is a big win for both comfort and handling.
Now, inside the Tiguan, it's kind of like what I said about the exterior in that there's recognizable features, but just like that exterior, it's changed a considerable amount as well. And Volkswagen has said that they're really focused on upgrading the quality and the feel of this cabin, how it feels to everything you touch. And I can certainly say, having spent a few minutes in the car, while there are little bits of plastic around, and of course, as you'd expect, there are features that are shared with other models, but actually it does feel really nice in here, not least because in this particular model, we've got leather wrapping most of the segments and sectors that you touch, including the steering wheel. The ID models actually get vegan stuff. This is still proper leather, which is probably going to appeal to Tiguan buyers. And also, we've got buttons here, none of the haptic touch stuff that we thought would be rolled out across more models. In fact, they've gone back to the designs they had before that. They're still recognizable and still the same layout, but actually a bit more old school in the way you operate them. Same goes for the buttons you press for the headlights as well. It's kind of the stuff you see on the ID models, which are haptic, but in this, it's proper buttons. That being said, something that isn't old school is the technology you're faced with in this car. Now, this car gets the bigger screen here, and it is massive. It's bigger than an iPad, and it's stuck on the dash up here. Let's see how it feels. Ooh, it's pretty solid, actually. Really good build quality in that there. Really big screen. It involves a lot of features and menus that are going to be recognizable to Volkswagen owners, even those who drive ID cars. But it is different in this car as well. There are new features, and I can see just from scrolling around on the sat-nav here that it responds nice and quickly. It seems to be lag-free as far as I can tell at this moment, although we won't know truly how effective it is until we're, of course, on the move and driving it at a later date. The digital instrument cluster ahead of me here as well is really nice and sharp. It's quite wide. I've got the two dials showing at the moment with your revs and your speed, but there will of course be some customizability allowed in that as well. So as far as tech is concerned, It looks very impressive indeed. And of course, tech is also in the aesthetic. We've got some nice graphics here, some lighting here, which can all be changed, and it can actually be controlled through this rotary switch down here, which not only allows you to control the screen as well without touching it, but it also allows you to shortcut your way through and affect things like ambient lighting, etc. Now, I have spotted that the heater controls, which many of us have struggled with in other Volkswagen models, do survive into this car, but there is one crucial difference, and that is that they are backlit. So you can actually use them at night without prodding the wrong things. I must say, I wish there were some dials down here, but at least now you're going to know what you're doing when you're adjusting your temperature, even in the dark. On the subject of practicality, there is actually a lot of stuff in here as well. There's lots of storage space. You've got a little shelf down here, and if you lift it up, you'll actually see that there's space for 2 phones down here with, I think, wireless charging, but you've also got 2 USB-C ports as well. And then back here, we've got quite a nice wide section with an adjustable section for your cup holder. And then if you lift up the central armrest here, there's a nice deep storage space down here, again with more cup holders. So you kind of have space for 3 cups all up here in the front, which is going to be very handy if you like to drink. And top of the range models even get massage seats for their part leather chairs. Buttons down here. Now, in the back of the new Tiguan, it's really spacious. I mean, really, really spacious, to the extent that I can tuck my feet under the seat ahead very comfortably, and yet I've still got lots of knee room as well. And because we have this full-length sunroof above me in this car, it really feels nice and airy. Yeah, okay, it only actually lifts up and moves back from the front half, so only the front passengers get the proper sunroof experience. But in terms of airiness, it really does help to make the back of the car feel nice and spacious, or more than it already is. As you can see, I've got a lot of headroom above me here. I'm just under 6 foot, and I'm really comfortable. And you can also move these seats forward and back to make the boot slightly larger. So on this particular side, I can move this one seat forward. So it's still actually not bad for knee room, but it does mean you've got that flexibility on top of the fact that you can obviously fold the seats down in their 2 segments here. Also, we've got a bit of tech in the back. We've got 2 air vents here, and you've also got 2 USB-C ports here. And this actually does light up as a digital display as well. And then when it comes to your comfort and practicality, as far as the middle seat's concerned, well, if you haven't got anyone there, you've got a nice wide armrest. This also opens as a ski hatch. And there's a new feature. If I pull this out, we've got 2 cup holders here, but they work differently to ones I've seen before. So you've got 2 cup holders here. And if you're the only one in the back, you can tilt this thing in the direction you want it to be, so that you can use this bit here to hold, for example, a big smartphone, or maybe even an iPad. So you can sit on long journeys, have your drink, or you can be watching TV as well. Now, as for middle seat comfort, we do have a tunnel through the floor here. There are, of course, 4Motion models available with this car, so it means you will have a drive shaft going through on those all-wheel drive cars, and it does mean that the floor has a big chunky bit in it here, so it's not the most spacious for the middle seat passenger in terms of foot space. It's not too bad though, there is quite a lot of room in the wells either side. In terms of middle seat comfort, because there's so much room above me, it's not too bad at all. I actually feel comfortable. I'm a bit higher, but I certainly feel like I'm in the car rather than on top of it. That being said, almost certainly if passengers were either side of me, it'd be a bit of a squeeze. So this is clearly a very comfortable 4-seater with a nice 5th seat here, just in case you want to carry a smaller person or for short journeys. Now in the boot, on this Elegance model, we've got a standard fit electric tailgate. And as you can see, there's actually a decent amount of space in here. It's got a flat boot floor with a bit of protective plastic here, so it should be pretty easy to load heavier items. Although if you've got smaller stuff, or things that will fit under here, there's a nice bit of space in this TSI model. You won't have this space, or certainly not as much as it, in the hybrid model, because there'll be batteries down here, but at least in this version, you do have a good amount of space down here. If you go without the spare wheel and you stick with a tyre repair kit, then you could theoretically hide quite a lot of stuff under here. You've also got a lot of space in these segments here. Both sides have it. And I can see it's easy to fold down the seats. You just pull these things here and that folds the seats down. And you get a proper plug here as well, which, while it's got a European setup here, you'd only need an adapter to make it work with a UK plug, which will be very handy for your campers. And on this model, we've even got a tow bar. So that's an early glimpse of the new Volkswagen Tiguan. What do you think of it? Let us know in the comments below, but I have to say, I am a fan of the new look. I really like the old car, but I think this slightly softer design, and especially one with an aero focus, is one I can genuinely get on board with. Also, the interior is a big step up. That big screen on the dash, especially in this top model, and of course having a lot more kit around you inside, is going to be a big win for SUV buyers. And it's spacious as well. I think this thing could be very, very successful. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to click the thumbs up button and of course subscribe to the channel, not least because early next year, we'll be driving this thing so we can tell you what it's like on the road.